Well, hey, friends, welcome back to the podcast. So, if you listen to my podcast on a regular basis, the other day I did a podcast episode on the many faces of Facebook. But then I was kind of feeling like I was leaving Instagram out, and I'm like, come on, let's do an Instagram one also. And the truth is, I've been feeling for a while like I've been cheating on Facebook with Instagram because there was a time when I was like, okay, I'm on Instagram, it's fine, but I didn't love it. And then I've done this shift in the last year to 2 years where I actually prefer Instagram anymore over Facebook for a lot of reasons. If you're someone who's like, gosh, Jen, I don't know about Instagram. Like, I feel like I'm maybe too old for the gram. Let me tell you, you're not. Instagram to me feels like a much safer place anymore than Facebook. It's a harder audience to build, but I do think that the people that you do get to follow you on Instagram are actually more committed to your brand and your products. I think about who I follow. I'm much more intentional about who I follow on Instagram than who I am on Facebook. And so just be encouraged. You can grow it. It'll probably be slower than Facebook, but it's really, really worth it. And so, and even if you don't love Instagram right now, I want to just also encourage you that you never know, like you might end up falling in love with it like I have. And so we're talking about Instagram today. Thankfully, they don't have as many different like apps and things, thank you, Jesus, as what Facebook does, because Facebook, if you listen to that podcast, it has 6 different apps now with the business suite and with the messenger, with the blue flag and with the creator studio. Like it's a hot stinking mess, but Instagram, good job. You're still just sticking with the one app and I'm here for it. So, but I'm going to talk about all the different things you can do inside of Instagram once you're in there and which one you should be using, what's best to grow your account, my personal opinions. And, my opinions might be different than some of you. And some of that's based on just preference. Some of it's based on age, I think. Some of it's based on what I'm selling and personality. And so we're going to go through all those things. It's going to be fun. Real quick, though, I'm going to just give a shout out to Heather M. Heather left a review over on iTunes and she said, Jennifer's always speaking truth in business, truth sharing the word of God, truth about her experiences, her wisdom and knowledge was such a gift. And I'm so grateful to have her podcast as a resource. I'm always sharing it with family and friends. So Heather, I'm not sure if you're a business owner or if you are just a precious woman of God who's listening to the podcast, but either way, I want to bless you in the name of Jesus for taking time to leave a review. The reviews really matter, you guys. They really do. So thank you for that. And I just pray that anything you would set your hand to, Heather, that God's favor would be upon it, that God's favor would be upon you and your family. And I just pray that things would go well with you in Jesus' name. So thank you so much for that review. Okay, so let's talk about Instagram. All right. So Instagram has done a lot of changing in the last year or so. One thing that frustrates me about social media in general right now is I feel like when social medias kind of get good at something, then other social medias will be like, whoa, we're going to do that too. We're going to do that too. Like a bunch of first graders. I've got a first grader, so I know how they behave. And so with that being said, like I kind of wish that Instagram would, you're watching me on YouTube right now. Yes, I did just take off my glasses to clean them because I got to see my notes. And yeah, all these podcasts are on YouTube if you didn't know that. But so Instagram has put some new things into place that I'm like, gosh, come on, Instagram. I wish you just kind of stick to the things you're really good at, but I'm still going to go through all of the things they had. So if you don't know, the CEO of Instagram is a guy named Kevin Streisand. I think is how you say his last name. And I know somebody was recently asking him how to build their Instagram account. Like it's small. He has like 7 million followers or something, and he said, lean into video. And so right now, Instagram, regardless of how I feel about it, is just really pushing people to do video. In particular, they're pushing people to do reels. Okay. So reels are not my favorite. I've said this in my inner circle. I've talked about it to the people which is in my coaching group. If you don't want to do reels, listen, you don't have to. I am not doing reels. I'm not. I don't like the dancing. I don't like the pointing. I don't like the snapping. And I'm not going to do it just in order to grow my account. I'm sorry. I'm just not. But listen, if you are into snapping or dancing or pointing, like that's totally fine. There are some people like Brock Johnson, for instance, who's doing just a fabulous job with reels. Pat Flynn, fabulous job with reels. But if you're feeling like you have to look like the influencers and do the dances and point to the bubbles in the sky. Like literally you don't have to, you don't have to do it that way. In fact, I encourage you not to, because I think there's so many people doing that right now that to me, it's just tired already. It's really tired. So, but Instagram is definitely giving precedence to people who are doing reels. So if you are into that sort of thing, and again, it doesn't have to be the dancing and pointing, but if you can figure out another way to do reels that feels better for you, boy, Instagram is really giving you a lot more precedence than anything else. So you'd have to figure out how to leverage reels for your industry and get creative. You can still be entertaining. They can still be educational. I've seen some great reels recently with decorating and DIY. So if you're in that space, like I literally watched a reel this morning of a lady like making her bed, and that was like really unoffensive to me. And I was like, yay, I enjoyed watching that reel. That's a reel that I actually liked. So, so there is that. Even if you have a product or a course though, you can still sell it on a reel, but you just don't think that you have to do it the way everybody else is doing that. Can we just make that like Pinky's promise? I will tell you that Rachel, who's on here at Team Allwood, she's young, beautiful and hip and all the things. Like she's able to wear like those leather boots that like come up to your knees, and she's like really tall, so she doesn't look like an Oompa Loompa like when I tried them on. So I'm just prefacing my statement by saying she's young and hip and all of the things. She loves reels. It's like her favorite thing, and I'm like, how are we even friends? I don't even know. But so she loves them. I hate them. She loves them. So reels, number one. Number two, IGTV. So IGTVs is something, that Instagram rolled out. Gosh, I don't even know. How long ago was it? A year, maybe 2 years. And when they rolled them out, if you remember, there used to be a separate app for IGTV. Now it's all just inside the one app. But Instagram loves IGTVs and they want you to do IGTVs. The last time I checked, because they have changed it a little bit, it used to be the IGTVs can only be 15 minutes. I believe that they are currently at 60 minutes long. And the longer you can get people to stay and watch, the better that it is for your Instagram, for your platform, for reaching more people, for potentially getting more people to follow you. So IGTVs are, whenever I do an IGTV, which I haven't done it in a while, you just literally record yourself on the camera on your phone and upload it. So it's not hard. And it's, if you like, let's say, Instagram lives, or if you like Facebook lives, like you're going to be fine with that. And so, IGTVs are something that they don't bother me. I've actually watched quite a few during this election season, honestly, that are, more political and things. But if you're going to be doing IGTVs, make sure you use a hashtag on them. We do have a full hashtag training, by the way, on our YouTube channel. So I'll have Rachel put it in the show notes down below. So if you're not watching this on YouTube, you could switch over if you want to look at that training on hashtags and go there. So, IGTVs for me, like it's something that I do on occasion. I'm not pushing it a ton. And I haven't done one in a hot minute. I don't think since the release of Fear is Not the Boss of You. And I'm not feeling guilty about it. Listen, friends, with so many options, we got to pick and choose. We got to pick and choose, like, what do we want to do? What makes the most sense for us personally? What makes the most sense for our brand? What feels like the best fit for us? What's actually going to be, what are we going to be able to do that we can leverage in a way to turn people from just watchers and consumers of our content to actual clients? Because people can watch you all day long on a reel or on IGTV, but if you're not actually going to be able to convert them at some point to like a client, if you're in business, like that's the whole point. It's not just, we're just not here for entertainment. If you want to be about entertainment, like, I was going to say, go get on TikTok. And then I'm like, be nice, Jen. Be nice. But you know what I'm saying? So we need to make sure, if we're business owners, that we're leveraging social media actually for business, because if you're not making dollars, at some point you're going to starve and the business goes down the tubes and yada, yada, yada. Okie dokie. Okay. So that's the IGTV. Stories, my favorite. Okay. I love Instagram stories. I love them. They're my absolute favorite because their stories are 15 seconds long, right? You all know this, or less than. You can do a minute at a time, where you record 4 of them at once, hands-free. I love that. I love using Instagram stories as a way to connect with my audience. I love like testing the waters with content on my stories. I love doing the different polls and adding music and doing the boomerangs. Like for me, stories are completely where it's at. When I first go to Instagram every day, I go to stories first. They're fun for me. I enjoy watching them. They're just little clips. I spy on my kids on stories. Like I love stories. So I heard somebody one time refer to stories and the feed of Instagram as the Instagram mullet. I'm like, that is fabulous. And I'm now going to use it forever. So if you think about the Instagram mullet, the stuff that's, on the feed that you're scrolling up, scrolling up, scrolling up, like that's the business part of Facebook. But the stories is like it's the party in the back. The feed is the business up front. And the stories are the party in the back. And so I love the stories. They're my absolute favorite. It is a great way to show your audience personality. It's a great way to show them the behind the scenes of your business. If you've got over 10,000 people, you can get the swipe up, and that changes everything. As many of you know, I recently started a Jennifer Allwood home account. There were many reasons for doing that. And if you want to know why, maybe I can do another podcast at some point. Why am I whispering? I don't know. Who am I trying to whisper to? I just got awkward for a second. But we did start a Jennifer Allwood home account. There was many reasons for that. But I was like so excited to finally get to 10,000 followers on Instagram so that we could have the swipe up. Right now I'm doing stories every day over on my main Jennifer Allwood business account. And I'm also doing stories every day on my Jennifer Allwood home account. And I just think it's such a great way to develop relationships with people, that are on the internet. They get used to seeing your face. And this is for those of you who you need to come out of hiding, by the way. But some of you need to come out of hiding. Doing a 15-second Instagram story is not that scary. It really isn't. And if you're, if you get tripped on little things like doing an Instagram story, like if that causes you nerves that keep you like balled up all day, like, listen, there's going to be a lot scarier things that happen as you grow your business than Instagram stories. And the reason that you want people watching your stories is because they get used to the way that you say things. They get used to, your facial expressions. They begin to start to kind of trust you as a human being. It's basic psychology, which also translates into sales psychology. It's interesting when people say to you, I feel like I know you. Like, I feel like, when they meet me in real life, that happens all the time. People are like, I just feel like you're my BFF. Then when they say things like that, it's because they've watched you do things like Facebook Lives, or they've watched you do things like Instagram stories. So they feel like they've gotten to know you. Now, how does this work if you've got a brick and mortar? Well, I don't know. My friend Chrissy Huff owns Restoration Emporium, RE in Kansas City. I watch her stories all the time. If she's selling the same stuff as somebody else in town, guess who I'm going to buy from? The one who I feel like I know the owner. The only reason I feel like I know the owner of RE is because she actually shows her face on Instagram. So some of you are like, no, I've got a brick and mortar. Nobody wants to know who the owner is. Nobody wants to do all the things. I highly disagree. Even if you have, like, let's look at Every. So I don't know if you ever listened to my podcast where I interviewed Megan Tampting, the owner of Evereve. It is a middle-aged women clothing chain. Love, and love some more. Okay. So Megan is the owner. She is a fabulous woman of God. Love her. And you don't see Megan on the stories all the time, but you do see people that work at her Evereve stores doing try-ons, etc. So go watch Evereve, go watch RE. Those are both really great examples of people who have brick and mortars who are doing stories. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't love having yourself on camera, either A, get over it, or B, give your phone to somebody else, let them do it. But stories will help people begin to trust your brand in ways that you just can't get from still photos. You literally just can't. You can't do it. And so I encourage you, if you've never done stories before, try them. It's that hearing, your voice that makes people begin to know, like, and trust you. When people slide into my DMs and they're like, Jen, I feel like you're the voice in my head. I'm like, hallelujah. Not that I want to be your Holy Spirit or your voice in your head. Not that, but it's just, it's kind of like my mom's voice or my grandmother's voice, or some of my favorite encouragers or my biggest cheerleaders or my coaches. I hear them in my head too. Why? Because I have a relationship with them. But most of those relationships, not my family, but the business ones, they started because I was watching them on social media, and I was watching how they conducted their life. I was watching how they conducted their business. And then I ended up getting into grips with them. Does that make sense? So, sales comes always back to the know, like, and trust factor, or just having the most kick butt product on the planet, one of the two. And so if you need more sales, work on that know, like, and trust factor. And a lot of times it's going to be by people seeing you on video, by watching your stories, maybe the IGTVs, maybe the reels, but always the stories, always the stories, always the stories. Okay. Did I mention I like stories? All right. You know, one more thing about stories and then we'll go. If you're in my coaching group, and I know a lot of my inner circle women are listening to my podcast right now, you know that we give you a playbook every month, as you know, which has like tons of content ideas for you so that you don't have to think, especially in a world right now where sometimes it's hard to know what to post about when it feels like the internet's a dumpster fire. So we even give you guys in the playbook like a story a day section. We give you ideas, all of the things. And it's because we believe in the power of stories, not necessarily for making purchases, but for basically planting the seeds, priming the people for when you do need to sell something. So there's that. Okay, let's talk about the posts on your feed. So the post on your feed is the business in the front part of the mullet. So if you remember the stories was the party in the back. Side note, my husband really did have a mullet at one time. He permed the he permed the back of his hair. It was a lot. It was very close to the achy breaky heart. Sometime I'm going to share that on my Instagram stories, just so you guys see that. But the feed is where you're scrolling up and you're seeing everybody's pictures. This is where pictures need to be, you know, a little bit prettier, a little more with your brand colors, a little more consistent. It's where things need to be a little more professional, etc. At least for the most part. Now, listen. I will tell you some of my favorite Instagram accounts to follow don't have a perfect feed. If you have like a DIY, a home decor, an online decorating, a brick and mortar, then your pictures in the feed probably need to be a little more polished. But if you're someone who is a personal brand and part of your brand is, hey, you don't need perfection like mine, then your photos, I don't think have to be nearly as perfect on the feed as what you might have told yourself they need to be, but your content needs to be exceptional. Does that make sense? You can get by with less than perfect photos, but your content still needs to be really good. I think some people think that the only way they can be successful on Instagram is if they have a professional photographer and they're, you know, hanging off the side of open staircases and the wind's blowing just perfectly on their hair. And, you know, they have all of the perfect chiseled face with their, you know, and this is nothing against makeup, with all of their highlighter and bronzer and all the things. And it really doesn't have to be that way. Yes, I love those photos, but who has time to be followed around by a photographer all the time? And I don't know about you, but I don't have what's called an Instagram husband. My husband is horrible at taking photos. God bless you, Mr. Magic. I love you. You can make dinner, breakfast, and kitchen like nobody's business, but he is a head chopper on photos. I've tried so hard, you guys, to teach him, but he is not. So he's not going to be following me around with a camera. And so I just have to be okay with like a lot of selfies and not in professional lighting in front of windows. And listen, that works too. So posts on the feed are usually more about like the things you're trying to sell. You're wanting people to save your photos on your feed and you're wanting them to share them. Okay, how do they share them? Well, they share them with that little thing that looks like a paper airplane under your picture. And the only way people are going to share things, by the way, they're not going to share a meme that says Happy Wednesday. Nobody shares that. Nobody saves that. But think of like the post on your feed as a place where you can do more of a brain dump, do more of like an instruction post. You can almost have more of a blog post wrote out. It can be, you know, a word of encouragement. I use the feed a lot of times when the Lord is depositing words of knowledge to me for business owners in particular. I use it in the feed. And I when I go back a lot of times and I look at the analytics, and if you haven't switched your personal Instagram over to a business yet, you need to do that. If you don't know how to do that, you need to get on the wait list for my business group. Go to creatorsinnercircle.com, not because you're a creative, but because you're creating a business in the online space. So creatorsinnercircle.com. But you need to switch your personal Instagram over to a business, and then you'll have insights. When I look at insights, I love seeing the posts that people have saved. And you save by clicking on that little banner underneath a photo anytime you're on Instagram. And I love seeing the ones that they have shared to other people. Now, why would people share one of your posts? Well, perhaps they know, like I have wrote a post about adoption or something, and they might forward it on to their own stories. They might forward it on to friends. They might forward it to whatever, but you really want people not only to comment, but to save a post and to share it. That's when you can really get some leverage in terms of getting more followers. I prefer to go that route over the reels. I hate the reels. I'm sorry. I don't know what just happened. Every once in a while, I think about like letting loose more of my personality on the podcast and social media. And I'm like, keep it together, Jen. Keep it together. But yeah, if you know me in real life, you'll know that I sing my words sometimes. Okay. So the last thing we're going to talk about, the fifth area of Instagram that is also one of my favorites, is the DMs. And literally, I can't even begin to tell you how many of you I meet in my DMs every day. And I love the DMs. I love connecting with real life people in the DMs. I have a whole podcast on this, just talking about DMs. So if you want to go listen to that, I'm not going to rehash everything, but essentially, what would you Google? Jennifer Allwood podcast, Instagram DMs, see what comes up. But I love DMs because I can see personality. Some of you guys are funny. And then I can we have little like GIF love. Wait, is it GIF or GIF? Is it peanut butter or is it presents? GIF or GIF? Peanut butter presents, who even knows? But so you'll send me a GIF and then I'll send you a GIF and then you'll send me a GIF. I love that. I love that. I love that you send me your real opinions about hard things that are going on in the world and we can connect in that way on the DMs because, I know sometimes it's hard to connect on the feed where everybody sees, your opinions on things. And I know some of you feel safer sharing things with me in your DMs, and I feel totally safe with you doing that. I love DMs. I think the DMs is a great place for relationship building and for making people feel seen. Listen, in 2020, there is more people feeling lonely, confused, desperate, sad, heartbroken, anxious than any other time in my 49 years. And there's times when I go to sit down to my DMs and I've got, 100 of them and I'm like, oh, Lord, have mercy. And then I think to myself, listen, if I have a chance to touch someone in my DMs today that could make a difference for their day or their life in general, I need to spend time sitting here doing it. And so in full disclosure, I probably spend an hour to 2 hours every day on my Instagram DMs. And for some of you, you're going to go, what? Well, it's part of my work. It's part of, to me, that doesn't feel like, crap, I got to get to my DMs again. I never feel that way. And I never take my DMs for granted. And can I answer all of them? Oh, heck no. A lot of times I'm just hearting them, which basically I'm just letting you know, I see you. I see you. But there's other times when the Lord will say, no, Jen, sit with this one. No, Jen, give this one a word. No, Jen, pay attention here. And so I try to create space to be in my DMs. And I'm not saying that you necessarily need to do that, but I know I was talking to a woman. The ladies who are in my monthly coaching group, they know that I've been offering just two one-on-one consultations a month for different people. And I was talking to somebody this week who was considering turning off her DMs on Instagram because she's very overwhelmed. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Just get a plan for, get some help, set aside a particular time of day, use quick replies. Like there's other ways that you can get through your DMs quicker. And we do talk about that in my coaching group, but anyway, just don't ignore your DMs. People want to be seen. They want to be heard. I want you to think of the times when you have sent a message to people who had a bigger audience than you, a bigger business than you, and you were hopeful that they would respond to you, and maybe you heard crickets, and that feels crabby, right? But then I want you to think about the time that you put a message out to somebody and they responded to you and how good that felt. I remember the first time Shalene Johnson sent me a DM and I was like, oh my gosh. She sees me. She knows I exist. Doesn't that feel good? And so if you're a business owner, I want you to think about that too. Also, if you're selling a product, you've got cute earrings like these from Nickel and Suede, you've got, a cute sweatshirt or whatever. You need to be in your DMs because there's lots of times I have a question about products I'm about to buy on Instagram. And that's the only way I know how to get a hold of people is, send them a question. Does this run true to size? I can't figure out where this is in green. You know what I'm saying? So pay attention to your DMs. They are a really great place to really just continue with that know, like, and trust factor. So there it is, friends. Those are the 5 different parts of Instagram. I'd love to know if you're somebody that's on Instagram take a screenshot of this podcast, tag me on it so I see it at Jennifer Allwood, and then tell me what your favorite part of Instagram is right now. Is it the reels? Is it the IGTVs, the stories, the DMs, the posts? You let me know. And if you want to watch this on YouTube, just so you know, we've been just not repurposing, but we make sure we do this podcast. You've got the audio over on the podcast app, but you've also got the visual over on YouTube. Because some of you, you like seeing whether or not my hair's grown back. And it is. I told you, my God will restore that the enemy has stolen from me 7 times. So if you didn't hear that podcast, wait, it wasn't a podcast. Sorry. It wasn't a podcast. It was just a YouTube video on hair loss. You can go look at that on YouTube as well. So bless you guys. Glad you're here. Until next week, be blessed. Bye-bye.